Man, I don't even know what I'm gonna name this drop, man. But these are the ones I get excited for. You know what I mean? I'm gonna tell you right now, man. Love to the sister Cara J. My sister Cara J. Been dropping that drop, man. I ain't been able to dig on every single thing, but I'm definitely gonna share some links from my sister Cara J. And MA Truth, man, just dropped some serious, what I'm saying, meat, some veggie meat for you to chew on, man. So check out the frequency, man, and just keep surfing the wave, man, with all the family. I mean, you see it's just popping up. It's way beyond any type of framework, man. It's like, it's just remembering, man. We're all just remembering all these elements, all these things, everything substantiating, everything validating. We're walking in our own shoes, and that's what we're doing, man. We always do it for the little homie in the back of the class with the headphones on. Love to the family, love to all the fam bam, love to the tribe, love to Thai Battle, man. She dropped a PDF on us, man. You know what I'm saying? We got in that African American 1782 drive. Go check that out. But she got a nice PDF, so we're going to add it to the library. All this is going on. It's fair use in your caboose bone. I don't know what I'm gonna name this thing, man, but we're gonna kind of surf the wave and kind of dig on it at the same time. If you can do the duplex, let's get on that Into the Stars, man. This is kind of really inspired by my bros in the copper thread, man. Talking about the first Jedi, man. Love to all the fam. Yeah, man. You know what I'm saying? Is Solomon the first Jedi? And what does that mean to you? Let's dig on this 4-minute drop. Into the Stars. Y'all go check it out, man. Get plenty of drop. It's all coming together. Let go.
You guys, Into the Stars. And now it's obvious to me that George Lucas, his inspiration for Star Wars was that of the Kabbalah. Now, the Kabbalistic teachings talk about...
Hold up, man. Hold up. Let me refresh from the top. So there ain't no play.
Hey guys, Into the Stars. And now it's obvious to me that George Lucas, his inspiration for Star Wars was that of the Kabbalah. Now, the Kabbalistic teachings talk about two stones. One of them was called the Shamir, the lightning stone. And this could cut through solid rock. The other stone was called the Shatia. And this stone caused the Ark of the Covenant to levitate just inches off the ground. Now, for those Star Wars fans out there, you know that lightsabers they used crystals inside of the lightsabers. And that these lightsabers could cut through very solid objects. We also know that part of being a Jedi was being able to produce anti-gravity properties. Does this sound familiar? Obviously it does, because these two stones cause this. Now, when you lump in the fact that Solomon's original name was Jedediah, which has the first 4 letters Jedi, and that according to the Kabbalah, they are saying that Solomon wielded these powers in the building of the temple.
Alright, so we got Solomon, we got all this energy. We got all this command over all this energy, all these elements. Jedediah. What was George Lucas digging on, man? You always knew it was about you when it came to this force and the light and the dark and all this stuff, man. All this stuff has been abstracted from you. All of it is taken out of you. So let's get some more babies.
A picture now emerges. Now, what's unclear to me at this point is under the dark or the light was Solomon wielding these powers. Apparently it started out good when he was building the temple of God. But we know that later in his life, he fell prey to the dark side. Now this goes all the way back to the very roots of Freemasonry. Okay? And these stones were called the stone of perfection and the lightning stone according to Kabbalistic traditions, as you can see here. It's interesting because in the Bible, Exodus 28 says, "And thou shalt put in the breastplate of judgment the Urim and the Thummim." These were two stones. And when you translate those words, they mean the very same thing. Light and perfection. Now again, these are gray areas. And I don't claim to know where the light and the dark side fell in this story. Obviously, this goes back to Freemasonry. And obviously, Freemasonry is evil in its current form. And they worship Lucifer. So, they were talking here about the craft, second degree Freemasonry, and so on and so forth. But the fact remains that this seems to be the basis by which George Lucas came up with the entire story of Star Wars. Now this is huge, because Star Wars is at the top of the list of science fiction films and legacies of all time. Now this is huge, because Star Wars
Alright, so we gotta dig on this book. This book is Lost Secrets of the Sacred Art. Alright. Seems to have some drop, man. Sticky fingers. Can we get a PDF, man? Somebody dig on that, man. Let me know if you can find a PDF on that. Lost Secrets of the Sacred Art. Yeah, I mean.
Star Wars. Now this is huge, because Star Wars is at the top of the list of science fiction films and legacies of all time. They are banging Star Wars into your head over and over again. So it's interesting that the roots of this, again, go back to the Bible, Solomon, and even the Kabbalah. Now, one thing is certain. This stone that cut through rock silently and with precision from its own magnificent spear of life was definitely a tool that could have been used to carve all of these stones around the earth. These megalithic structures that fit perfectly without the use of mortar. Stones cut with what is in effect a lightsaber. Now, if this
Wow. I mean, it gets deep, man. So if you combine this with what Paco's dropping, man, with the monoatomic gold, man, and hey, you know what I'm saying, the difference between that and the ether or etheric, you know what I mean, that we are the etheric gold. I mean, you got to dig on that, get the vibration, and then maybe you'll get a difference between these Jedis, you know what I'm saying, between this lightness and this darkness and the greater light that even Thoth said he can't get near the greater light beyond the barrier, man. So if you're rocking with them, then you stuck underneath the barrier, period. Because they can't get beyond the barrier to the greater light. But you come from that light. And we're only talking lightsabers, man. Levitating crystals, man. The covenant ark of the covenant. Yeah, let's see if we can get that PDF, man. Let's keep it going. Love to MA Truth, all right? So in the same vein as frequency, all right? So she just dropped this wonderful, you know what I'm saying, drop about the ultimate weapon in 98 and 1984, all right? The language, all from, who's this by? Jim Burks. This is a George Orwell drop. And let's just get it, man. Let's just get it. You know what I'm saying? Because the sister covered it very, very beautifully and thoroughly. And I just wanted to share it with you. So love to the sister for dropping this PDF on us. Language as the ultimate weapon in 1984. George Orwell, like many other literary scholars, is interested in the modern use of the English language. All right, so he put something in these codes. He did something back then to, you know, leave breadcrumbs, man, so we can go back to today. And in particular, the abuse and misuse of language. He realizes that language has the power in politics to mask the truth and mislead the public. I know this is small, so just pull up that link. You got it. Click on it below. And he wishes to increase public awareness of his power. He accomplishes this by placing a great focus on news, speak, and the media in his novel 1984, demonstrating the repeated abuse of language by the government and the media in his novel. Orwell shows how language can be used politically to deceive and manipulate people, leading to a society in which the people unquestionably obey their government and mindlessly accept all propaganda as reality, leading to a society. So this is what he was trying to, shine the light on in 1984 to get the word out. And now here we are in 2017, 20, 30, 40 years later. And now we are literally, living in exactly what he was demonstrating. The repeated abuse of language by the government and by the media. Now it said, Orwell shows how language can be used politically to deceive and manipulate people. We're just talking language. So when you see us getting into the philology, the study of languages, when we get into the etymology, when we start digging on this Hebrew and this Paleo and this Picto, and we're trying to say, man, how can we get to the root of it, man, so that we're not deceiving and manipulating? When we see where the Y's came in and where the J's came in and how they've been used to deceive and to manipulate. Language can be used politically to deceive and manipulate people, leading to a society in which the people unquestionably obey their government. Unquestionably. They ask no questions, but they just obey the maritime sea law. And mindlessly accept all propaganda as reality. So everything that's happening as propaganda, all these, false flag, whatever the case is, all this stuff going on as propaganda. The propaganda. You're from Africa. Propaganda is accepted as reality. It's accepted as reality. Right or wrong. Language becomes a mind control tool with the ultimate goal being the destruction of will and imagination. As John Wayne says in his essay, Orwell's vision of 1984 does not include extinction weapons. He is not interested in extinction weapons because fundamentally they do not frighten him as much as spiritual ones. So he's not trying to give you the drop on some extinction level weapons and all this atomic this and all this stuff they're trying to scare you with. He's trying to tell you about the spiritual war that's way worse. And why is he linking the spiritual war with language, people? And why are we trying to get out of the English spell? The A-E-I-O-U. Phil Chilton suggests that the language theme in Orwell's novel has its roots in the story of the Tower of Babel. So this has everything to do with you and your Tanakh, my people. This has everything to do with these Israelites in America, my people. These are the little breadcrumbs, man, that we got to get the drop out of now. So Chilton suggests that the language theme of Orwell's novel has its roots in the story of the Tower of Babel. When God destroys the Tower of Babel, the civilizations which have contributed to the construction of the tower suffer ever after from the curse of confusion. The curse both makes languages mutually unintelligible and alters their nature so that they no longer lucidly express the nature of things, but rather obscure and distort them. Again, the curse both makes languages mutually unintelligible and alters their nature so that they no longer lucidly express the nature of things, but rather obscure and distort them. Orwell's Newspeak, the ultra-political new language introduced in 1984, does precisely that. It facilitates deception and manipulation, and its purpose is to restrict understanding of the real world. Chilton also suggests that a corollary to this is that each post-Babel language becomes a closed system containing its own untranslatable view of the world. Certainly, the ultimate aim of Newspeak is to enclose people in an unorthodox pseudo-reality and isolate them from the real world. Now we got social media and all these people living pseudo titles and pseudo names and pseudo realities, isolating them from the real world. Whereas people generally strive to expand their lexicon, the government in 1984 actually aims to cut back the Newspeak vocabulary, One of the Newspeak engineers says, "We're cutting the language down to the bone." Newspeak is the only language in the world whose vocabulary gets smaller every year. Sounds familiar? By manipulating the language, the government wishes to alter the public's way of thinking. This can be done, psychologists theorize, because the words that are available for the purpose of communicating thought tend to influence the way people think. The words that are available for the purpose of communicating thought tend to influence the way people think. The linguist Benjamin Lee Whorf was a firm believer in this link between thought and language, and he theorized that different languages impose different conceptions of reality. So when words that describe a particular thought are completely absent from a language, that thought becomes more difficult to think of and communicate. Damn. So my people, when you go from Paleo-Hebrew to English, how many words are being taken away from you? And if those words are taken away from you, then what? It's more difficult to think of and communicate. So there's a parts of you being taken away. There's connections being taken away because you no longer have those words. You no longer have those vibrations, that frequency. You need language. You need the frequency of it. This is the same frequency that you can use telepathically, you know what I'm saying? But you can speak the same pure tongue that you would telepathically. And this provided frequency. And without that frequency, let's read that again. This is amazing, man. So the linguist Benjamin Lee Whorf was a firm believer in this link that between thought and language. Listen up. This is a link between thought and language. And he theorized that different languages impose different conceptions of reality. Damn. Different languages impose different conceptions of reality. Different realities. Damn. Yo, shout out to M.A. Truth. Y'all go, man. Click that link below. Subscribe to M.A. Truth, man. My sister, man. My sisters, man. I always got to just stop a minute and just say, you know, my sisters, you are sharp, sharper than a crystal arrow. You know what I'm saying? And I appreciate y'all, man, for surfing the wave with me, taking the time, dropping these links. I apologize. I take a long time sometimes to get back to some things, but when I do get it, it's right on time. So I always know that, you know what I'm saying? I appreciate your patience. But yeah, man, you heard this, man. Yeah, man. Benjamin Lee Whorf, all right, the psychologist, the linguist, he theorized that different languages impose different conceptions of reality. So if they take you out of your language, they take you out of your reality. You no longer can even think in terms of being an Israelite king, or, you know what I'm saying, having a kingdom, because your language doesn't reflect it. It's not reflected in the thought connected to the language of your English, because that reality that you were living is now being, you know, connected to a whole nother, you know, a whole nother group of people. Other people are claiming to be you. So in their English language and all that Ashkenaz and all that other stuff, they're connecting themselves in through language. And when they got you out of your language, you're trapped in this barrier language, and you have to kind of go by these barrier thoughts and rules, and it's hard to break that shit. What did it say? That the thought becomes more difficult to think of and communicate. You can't even think of or communicate your kingdom in this frequency. It's more difficult. It's not impossible, or else we wouldn't be doing it. Ebonics is our friend. Stay up, suit up, choose up, everything that we drop, you know what I'm saying, all that stuff, that's our friend, man. We're breaking, you know what I'm saying, we're breaking through the walls of this thing, man, just by flipping these words and just enjoying it and vibing and having a flow to this thing. Our flow is killing this shit right now. It's killing through all the hijack. It's killing all the barriers, you know what I'm saying, that's been put up, all the frequency barriers, you know what I'm saying, like your brother, my brother, Phil Valentine be saying, man, like cold frequency lockdown, man. So we definitely can get the babies out of that. The linguist Benjamin Lee Whorf was a firm believer in the link between thought and language, man, one more time. And he theorized that different languages impose different conceptions of reality. They take you out of your frequency, they take you out of your language, they change your reality. So when words that describe a particular thought are absent, completely absent from a language, listen up. When words that describe a particular thought, like, let's see, I have a kingdom, I come from a royal seed, I am hijack free. When words that describe a particular thought, I am not a homeborn slave, I am free, we are free, we are connected, we are united. When words that describe a particular thought are completely absent from a language, when they've taken you out of your language, you don't have these words anymore. These words that describe a particular thought, when they are absent from your language, listen up. Here's the rump. That thought becomes more difficult to think of and communicate. And you go to sleep because it's so hard to relate to yourself out of yourself. Because they've taken you out of yourself, convert or die. Papal bull, dumb diversas, man. They've taken you out of yourself for the inner party. The goal is to impose an unorthodox reality for the inner party, for the inner party, for the ones that signed the treaties. Their goal is to impose an unorthodox reality, a hijack reality, a hijack illusion, an illusion of seclusion, isolated globular body illusion. Their goal is to impose an unorthodox reality and make heretical thought, i.e. thought crime, impossible. In the end, we shall make thought crime literally impossible. Thought crime, heretical thought crime. I mean, look, man, this is what he was dropping in 1984. Orwell explains the Newspeak engineer, because there will be no words in which to express it. No words, man. By design, Newspeak narrows the range of thought and shortens people's memories. It is therefore ideal for a totalitarian system in which the government has to rely on a passive public, which lacks independent thought and which has a great tolerance for mistakes, both past and present. To expand language is to expand the ability to think. To expand language is to expand the ability to think. So when they've taken you out of your language and given you a hijacked bastard English language to rock with, what happened to your ability to think? When they cut down your trees and you suffer from oxygen deprivation and 1 billion of your brain cells die as soon as you're born, what happens to your ability to think? Do you see that the hijack is real? Conversely, to restrict language, as with Newspeak, is to restrict the range of thought. Chilton identifies the specific features of Newspeak that help restrict thought, reduce complexity. So these are the issues, specific features, alright, of this Newspeak language that they're trying to impose that helps restrict thought. Reduced complexity, few abstractions, and no self-reference. You can't even reference yourself. Such narrow public thought is what the inner party prefers. Narrow public thought, because a public that lacks the ability to think vividly poses less of a threat than one that can readily criticize the government and defend itself from harm. And it goes on, man. There's a lot more drop to it, man. So I'm just going to help you lead you to that water, man. Love to MA Truth, the ultimate weapon, man. Frequency, language. That's why we got to get back in the paleo. Hiram, take the wheel. And like I said, man, we're going to get into this Cara J, man. This sister dropped some phenomenal drops. We're just gonna kind of surf Cara's wave, man. Surf Cara's wave, man. Get wavy. Love to the family. Love to Drop Nation. This is a little, you know what I'm saying, Amorite drop. You know, be careful what you ask for. We've been asking about these Amorites. Who are the Amorites? Well, you know what I mean, this, you know, cat, you know what I mean, of course it's Hijack 101, but let's see if he has any babies we can get out the Amorite water. You know what I mean, maybe we can connect some of these more rights. Of course, you know what I'm saying, of course we can connect the more right. But how do we connect it? I mean, natural by law, been connecting, and we got some giant drop. We got things happening with Joshua Hawashua. We'll be back in that Hawashar, Book of Jashar. Alright, let's get this Amorite drop, man. Taken from the Lost Secrets of Ancient America. More secrets about the land of the copper color race. Let's go.
And past, we will now look at just who these people might have been in an attempt to find out not just where they themselves came from, but also the advanced knowledge they carried with them. After the last Sumerian dynasty fell around 2000 BC, Mesopotamia drifted into conflict and chaos for almost a century. Around 1900 BC, a group of Semites, Canaanites called the Amorites, had managed to gain control of most of the Mesopotamian region. Like the Akkadians, the Amorites centralized the government over the individual city-states and based their capital in the city of Babylon, which was originally called Akkad and served as the center of the Amorite Empire. For this reason, the Amorites are also called the Old Babylonians.
The Old Babylonians. So you were in Babylonian captivity. You are in Amorite captivity. Let go.
In the period of their ascendancy over the region, which lasted from 1900 to 1600 BC, is called the Old Babylonian period. The Amorites were an ancient tribe of Canaanites, but who were technically not of Canaanite ethnicity, who inhabited the region northwest of the Jordan River as far as Mount Bel Hermon. In the ancient texts, they were said to have lived in the mountains, the highlands, and the coastal plains of Canaan. It is not clear whether the Amorites were actually this diffused throughout Canaan or whether the term was occasionally used synonymously with Canaanite. The Amorite name means literally the high one, a fitting name as the Amorites were said to be giants. The Amorites are first mentioned as...
Whoa. Love the natural by law, man. He's been digging on it, man. So, you know, go check out that drop. Come back to this. Alright, so we still talking giants. We still talking giants, man.
Having descended from Canaan, the first son of Ham, and as such were the first in recorded history to have been a priest of the Most High God Melchizedek. Melchizedek is also known as Quetzalcoatl, Hermes Trismegistus, etc., and was one of the serpent priests that we discussed earlier.
And that's funny because they want to throw Quetzalcoatl all over the place. You know what I'm saying? He might be this, he might be this, he might be that, he might be this. But think about the Amorite giant drop, because then you could really relate it to Joshua, Hawashua, you know what I'm saying? Slicing and dicing. Giant seeds, fallen angel seeds. That's what it was all about. That's why don't leave no women alive, don't leave no children. These were fallen angel seed, giants, and otherwise, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, this is all kind of being, you know, revealed, brought out, that it wasn't, you know what I'm saying? Because you always hear, you know, different communities, you know what I mean? Oh, you know what I'm saying? The Bible's must be a white man's book because, you know, he was killing a bunch of Canaanite, a bunch of Africans, you know what I'm saying? Nah, man, all that was happening right here in YUTAH, in Mexico, in the Yucatan, in South America, and these were giants. These were fallen angel seeds before, you know what I'm saying, everything got picked up and put over to the other side of the world. This is the old world here, buddy. All of it's being uncovered. All the artifacts are coming right out of here underneath your feet. And this is what was connected to Lemurian Atlantis. But go.
Along with many other tribes, occupied the pre-conquest territory of Canaan. Amorite may have signified either a single ethnic clan or a loose confederacy of tribes. At times, the Amorite name seems to be synonymous with Canaanite and to represent all non-Israelites who God commanded to be driven from the land. Canaanite comes from the root word Cain, which means serpent. There is evidence of them in Babylonia, where in the 19th century BC they established under their patronage the first dynasty at Babylon. The most powerful king of this dynasty, Hammurabi, put an end to Amorite domination and issued a famous code of law, the Code of Hammurabi, similar to Israelite codes.
And we got to dig on that, because it was similar to Israelite codes, or was it Israelite codes? And again, it was against the same hijacks, the same Amorites, the same giants.
At the time of Joshua, the Amorites were living both east and west of the Dead Sea. They were subdued and gradually absorbed by the Israelites under the leadership of Joshua. It is quite likely that at one time the Amorites were the most powerful of all the pagan clans in Palestine. The Babylonians called the area of Syria and Palestine the land of the Amorites. That could explain ongoing feuds over these lands to this day. The Amorites lived in close contact with the Sumerians for a long time preceding their ascendancy over the region, so it's possible that they gradually adopted Sumerian religion over several centuries. The Amorites did, however, import a new god into Sumerian religion, Marduk, which they elevated to the supreme position over all other gods. In the earliest Sumerian sources beginning about 2400 BC, the land of the Amorites, the Martu land as it was called, is associated with the lands west of the Euphrates, including Syria and Canaan. However, the Amorites' ultimate origin may have been Arabian. For the Akkadian kings, Martu was one of the four quarters surrounding Akkad, along with Subartu, Sumir, and Elam. They appear as nomadic people in the Mesopotamian sources, and they are especially connected with the mountainous region of Jebel Bishiri in Syria, called the Mountain of the Amorites. The ethnic terms Amuru and Amar were used for them in Assyria and Egypt, respectively. Amorites worshipped, among others, the moon god, Sin, and Amuru, from whom their name may be taken.
That's interesting, you know what I'm saying? You get different takes on the Amuru. Of course, you know, we don't see, you know, all serpents the way that they see all serpents. You know what I'm saying? If you look at a serpent the same way, you know what I'm saying, a Christian does, and you know, are going to be asked backwards. You know what I'm saying? You are the connection of the concrete energy, the energy points, the energy connections that represented what they considered serpent energy. But their version of this serpent, you know what I'm saying, their version of this Amaru. You know what I mean? Let's get that back one more time. What does it represent to them? You can dig on.
Amorites. The ethnic terms Amuru and Amar were used for them in Assyria and Egypt, respectively. Amorites worship.
All right, so they're saying that the Amaru, the Amuru, are the Amorites. Well, I guess it kind of sounds, you know, I guess you could take that. Amoru, Amorite. Amaru, Amorite. Is that the drop? I don't know. You tell me. Let's go.
Among others, the moon god, Sin, and Amuru, from whom their name may be taken. Amuru is sometimes described as a shepherd and the son of the Mesopotamian sky god Anu. He is called Baal Sadeh, the Lord of the Mountain, and he who dwells on the pure mountain. Amuru was also known as Yah or Enki, and was the father.
He was also known as Yah. And what else?
Of Marduk. The Amorite language was a Semitic dialect. The main sources for our limited knowledge about their language are mountain. Amuru was also known as Yah or Enki, and was.
All right, so they talk about the moon god and the moon this and the moon that. And that's when we had that drop. We saw that, yeah. We saw that, hold up, man. Let's see if I can just, oh, man. All praise Hawaii. Because, you know, man, things be happening right sometimes. Yeah, you see these two moons outside of the ice ring. I'm not going to get heavy, but I'm just saying, you see Thoth, the moving island, right outside of South America. Admiral Byrd said he found some lands over here. Now we see this double, you know, what eclipses the moon? What eclipses the moon? All right, there's some dark object eclipsing the moon. It's not the sun or the earth is in the way or nothing like that, because the sun is small. See how small it is? 32 miles in diameter, according to Enoch. There's another sun, 32 miles in diameter. Sun here, sun here. Hey, look, man. I'm just asking questions. All right? You can't substantiate your globe. I can't substantiate this, but is it true? Is it true? Because for some reason, it's just popping up. It's just popping up in different recon and different research. Beyond the barrier, more land, more land. land, more land. But to this Yah. Alright, so this say this Amaru, moon god, Yah, and now you see Yah, name of their hijacked moon, right outside of their Ra, summer gate, and Thoth, the moving island. So this is Hijackville. That's why Yah is being used in a frequency. Pay attention. Let's go.
Was the father a shepherd and the son of the Mesopotamian sky god Anu. He is called Baal Sadeh, the Lord of the Mountain, and he who dwells on the pure mountain. Amuru was also known as Ea or Enki, and was the father of Marduk. The Amorite language was a Semitic dialect. The main sources for our limited knowledge about their language are proper names, not Akkadian in style, that are preserved in ancient inscriptions. Many of these names are similar to the much later biblical Hebrew names. It is unclear exactly where the Amorites originated, although ancient texts say they came somewhere from the west, and that they fled to a western land where their copper mines were located, after the exodus of the Jews forced them out of Palestine. Unlike the Moabites and Ammonites, who occupied areas sometimes overlapping the Amorite lands east of the Jordan, the Amorites were considered unrelated to the Israelites by blood. God promised to give the Amorites land to Abraham's descendants, but exempted the Ammonites and Moabites from Israelite aggression. The Amorites were thus listed among the Canaanite tribes whom the Israelites should drive out of the land when they came to Canaan from Egypt. However, after the Exodus, the book of Numbers indicates that the Israelites were willing to make peace with the Amorites, offering them the same terms given to the Moabites and Edomites. Let us pass through your country. We will not turn aside into any field or vineyard, or drink water from any well. We will travel along the king's highway until we have passed through your territory. Seeing their vast numbers, the Amorite kings...
Legos, really? Hijacks, man. Hijacks can't just tell a story without putting Legos and bullshit. Let's go.
Sihon refused this offer, mustering an army against the Israelites who defeated him at Jahaz and claimed the city of Heshbon and its environs. They next defeated King Og of Bashan, also an Amorite, and seized his territory as well. Og is elsewhere described as the last of the remnant of the giants.
So Joshua, Hawashua, mowed all these giants down. Now you're digging up giant skeletons all over the damn place. They were running their ass off from the power. Remember, Joshua commanded the sun to stand still. That's a lot of power. A lot of power.
Whose bed was 13 feet long. The Amorites were said to be a seafaring people like the Phoenicians and had advanced knowledge of navigation, astronomy, building, mathematics, as well as metalworking, crystals, and alchemy. I was blown away to discover the Amorites were also known as mound builders, with mounds attributed to Amorite creation being found in Saudi Arabia that look remarkably similar to those found in the United States. There has been much evidence found in the state of Michigan of ancient copper mining going on so far back in antiquity that the coal extracted found in these ancient copper mines would crumble to dust upon touch. Someone thousands of years ago was extracting massive amounts of copper in Michigan and shipping it across the United States.
Michigan, again, my people. If you're not getting this shit clearly, they're putting it right in your face. Oh, Amorite mounds here are the same as the Amorite mounds, the mound building going on over here. They're putting it right in your face that these are the same people now. All you got to do is ask Nessus which came first. And what did he say? Oh, well, shit, someone thousands of years ago was digging copper out of Michigan. He went right to Michigan. What came first? Ain't no way you can substantiate a claim that came first when you start digging on what's coming out of here. Amorite mounds, Amorites here, Amorite mounds here, Louisiana. Mound builders here, mound builders there. Now, not all these mounds are giant mounds, and not all pyramids are hijacked pyramids. We're just talking frequency, because again, you didn't need pyramids when you had your trees, man.
States to what is now Florida, and then shipping it off somewhere presumably back to the Middle East. Evidence of
it was coming out of here to there. Which came first?
An ancient port with many copper artifacts tracing back to Michigan mines, as well as ancient red hair mummies, has been found in Florida. At the very same time, circa 1000 BC, we find the construction of the first real city in the United States. at a site archaeologists call Poverty Point, along the Mississippi River in Louisiana. Here, according to Linda Schaefer, Berber-style mound building in the New World begins with startling suddenness. Native Americans before 1492, page 6. Poverty Point was a trading city through which the copper wealth of the Mississippi River and the Great Lakes was funneled. Observes R. Ben Madison, utilizing megalithic ideas, Poverty Point's mounds are aligned so as to predict the vernal and autumnal equinoxes. At its peak between 1000 and 700 BC, Poverty Point had a population of over 5,000 people. Its direct territorial control took in the Mississippi Valley in Mississippi, Louisiana, and southern Arkansas. There were also noted 2 distinct districts in the city. The Phoenician ships with their Israelite traders and buyers used this port on the Mississippi for buying the ore that was transported down the river from Lake Superior and the Isle Royale. The fact that Poverty Point was divided into 2 districts points to a Canaanite Phoenician quarter and a quarter for the Israelites who traveled on the Phoenician ships. Evidently, a large quantity of the copper ore stockpiled by David for use in the temple passed through Poverty Point. Later, David's son Solomon continued importing the ore from Lake.
Slow down, Hijack 101. Now you saying that some of David's drop was passing through here? Is that what he said?
The 2 districts points to a Canaanite Phoenician quarter and a quarter for the Israelites who traveled on the Phoenician ships. Evidently,
Sarah's mound. Which Sarah? Sarah the Black? Sarah Callie?
a large quantity of the copper ore stockpiled by David for use in the temple passed through Poverty Point.
Used for the temple of David or priest, king, Prester John. Dawood, Lebna Dango Dawid. David. Poverty Point. Let's go.
Later, David's son Solomon continued importing the ore from Lake Superior in his grandiose building projects until it was finally exhausted.
Michigan plays, man.
These Danites were migrating Israelite tribes from the Black Sea area who spawned a culture known to the archaeologists as the Hallstatt Latini culture. Emerging in Central Europe and exploding to the west some 50 years later, the Danites pushed the Canaanite Berbers to the far north regions of Norway, Finland, and Russia. A few pockets remained in the Basque areas of Europe and in Pict land in northern Britain. The Canaanite Berber
Pict land, we'll be back on those picks.
Cultures of Western Europe were savagely disrupted by the invading Israelite refugees. First a trickle, then a flood began to flee from the ceaseless predations of this migrating people from the east. Thousands boarded their boats and set sail for the New World, and a massive surge of Berber immigration to North America from North Africa and the Iberian Peninsula was underway. As proven by a myriad of cultural innovations from the Beaker group culture which burst upon the North American scene, Professor Barry Feld dates a major wave of Iberian Canaanite colonists to the New World during this period. According to the Greek historian Herodotus, Berbers wore what we call Mohawk haircuts, like many North American Indian tribes. Herodotus also mentions that the Berbers engaged in the same kind of vision quest commonly found in North American cultures. To this day, adds Madison, Berbers have the same kind of animal legends as North American Indian mythology. Berbers had arrowheads, spear-throwing devices, wore feathers in their hair, and wore fringed leather clothing exactly like the native peoples of North America. Following this great migration,
if it walks like a duck, talks like a duck.
Around 500 BC, we are left with 3 large and substantial Canaanite groups in the New World. The first, which had settled around Lake Superior in Wisconsin in approximately 1430 BC, and was nicknamed the Old Copper Culture by the
Wisconsin. Now we digging on that acid land in Wisconsin.
Archaeologists. Its continuation, the Red Ochre culture, spread throughout Wisconsin, Michigan, Illinois, and Indiana. The second group settled in and around Poverty Point, Louisiana, circa 1000 BC. Finally, the third group, which was the third great wave of Berber immigration, arrived shortly after 500 BC and was instrumental in the emergence of the Adena culture. The Adenas were said to be giants and were originally thought to have constructed the Ohio Serpent Mound. All these groups, explains R. Ben Madison, maintained some contact with their parent civilization, the Beaker groups, back in Europe and North Africa. But when the Danites exploded into Spain and pushed the Canaanites out, this disrupted what was left of the Beaker trade with the New World, and at roughly the same time, for reasons not yet understood, the Isle Royale copper mines were abandoned and there occurred a substantial decline in the New World in the use of copper to manufacture everyday tools and utensils. Jim Bailey writes that around Lake Superior, which was a focus of Canaanite colonization in those days, Modern Oibe Indian legends say that their ancestors drove out a race of
hijacks.
white miners. At the same time that the Danites and Celts drove the Berber beaker culture out of Western Europe, the Poverty Point culture also collapsed. The reason the Poverty Point culture collapsed is not sure, but it seems its inhabitants dispersed somewhere to the west. However, one Berber culture in North America survived, the Red Ochre culture in Wisconsin. From this culture,
I believe you said the Adena culture was also giants, man. So you got more giants, 500 to 100 BC. Now, of course, you got to dodge the hijack of the timeline, but even if you just try to fit it in, what happened to Poverty Point? Giants. Giants, man.
culture, along with a new influx of Berbers from Spain, a new civilization was beginning to emerge. The Adena culture, who, as we stated earlier, were known to be giants. The umbilical cord between Western Europe and North Africa was cut when the Israelite Celts Danites invaded Europe circa 500 BC. But like the phoenix rising out of the ashes, the Berber culture was revived from a different quarter after North Africa and the Iberian Peninsula fell under the influence of Carthage. According to R. Ben Madison, the remnants of the Berber beaker culture on the Iberian Peninsula now mix with Danite, Celtic, or Celtiberian peoples, who began to trade with Carthage. The remaining Berber economies, such as Talcia, began to decline, while at the same time the Poverty Point culture faded back into the Louisiana Bayou country and its inhabitants fled to Texas. As a result of the situation in Spain, the Berbers returned to the New World in Carthaginian ships to begin regular trade with the American Northeast.
Louisiana Bayou.
The first well-known mound builders in American prehistory were the Adena, and explains Madison, quote, mound building was an important art in both their megalithic and beaker phases. In North Africa and Western Europe, they buried their dead in stone tombs, which were then enclosed in large earthen mounds.
Stone tombs, earthen mounds.
Across the Atlantic and North America, this custom was continued. Many mound builder tombs are exactly the same layout, a rock tomb covered in an earthen mound. The historic copper trade apparently continued or was revived. Copper ingots of identical oxide shape have been found on both sides of the Atlantic, proving that around 200 BC, there was a revival of the regular Atlantic trade between the Mediterranean and North America. This involved copper from Wisconsin sent down the Mississippi River and out to Europe.
How important is copper, my people? Copper colored races found there. How important is copper?
Traffic up the Potomac River from the Atlantic into the American interior. At roughly the same time, claims Harvard professor Barry Fell, waves of Iberian Punic colonists settled in North America. In 1838, writes R. Ben Madison, an Iberian inscription was discovered in Mammoth Mound, an Adena site at Moundsville, West Virginia. It was immediately pronounced by French and American linguists to be Libyan or Numidian. The brief inscription explains that the mound was a burial site for a notable named Tadash, and that his wife had built it in his memory. The Iberian Punic alphabet has also been found on inscriptions in Iowa, Massachusetts, Spain, and Lebanon, showing the Middle Eastern origin of the mound builders. Elder Charles B. Thompson was one of the first Mormon writers to identify the mound builders with the Nephites whose story is told in the Book of Mormon. According to the Book of Mormon, there were two races here ages ago. One was the Nephites and the other was the Lamanites.
All right, Nephites and Lamanites. We're going to get on some Mormon job. Of course, they want to write themselves in, and how do they do it?
The Nephites were white-skinned, red-haired, civilized, industrious...
Yeah, take their word for it. The people that were found here originally were white. That's what they, come on. Come on, man. How do you start with recessive genes? Anybody with common sense is going to ask that question. You mean we started with recessive genes and somehow out of recessive genes got dominant genes? Hijack 101.
People, whereas the Lamanites were an idle, savage, and vicious people, delighting in war and bloodshed. The order was given to wipe the Nephites off the face of the earth, along with all record of their existence.
So there's always order, chaos. All right, that's what we get. That's how we ride and remember. And that, what I'm saying, we can always abstract who we are out of these whitewashed texts of white Quetzalcoatl and white bearded this and white this. You know what I'm saying? They give you that just so they can sell their books. But within that, you got to abstract it. And you have to know. You're not going to get their images. You're not going to get them telling you most of the time. You have to know. When they're talking order and they're talking original, they're talking copper color race found here. And copper color is a dark, rich, ruddy, you know what I'm saying? So that's what they found here.
In some battles, thousands were slain who were piled up in heaps upon the face of the land and had earth thrown upon them.
Yeah, man. All right. We're going to keep it going. So that's just, you know what I mean? All right. So we're going to get to some more, you know what I'm saying, on this Book of Mormon drop. This is what she dropped as well, Book of Mormon and the Hope Well of Ancient North America. Right before we get to it, wait. All right, cool. All right, right before we get, my sister always, you know, also dropped this. Now, this is definitely going to go up in our new library, man. Thank you for your patience, because it's coming to you. Mysteries of Ancient South America by Harold T. Wilkins. All right. Let's see if we can get some context on this, man. See if we can get the context. All right. I mean, right away, you know what I'm saying, your eyes should be popping out. I mean, it's all kind of connectivities. I mean, even over here, you know what I'm saying? I mean, Quetzalcoatl's temple of 1,000 columns, huh? Woo! You know I want to dig on that. I ain't even going to, you know what I'm saying? These just might be separate drops, man. Because it's so much. You know what I mean? Hey, okay. All right. Okay. This is, you know, the sign of the sun, world's oldest alphabet. You know, that's got to be some drop. The Atlantean, subterranean, the Incas, giants, Tihuanacu, and the giants. We're still on the giants. Y'all just want to keep the giant theme going? I kind of want to get on that, I'm saying, the Great Catastrophe, Dead Cities. All right. Let's go to the giants. Let's go. You know, don't be afraid. A little giant action. All right, right quick. I want to go to this alphabet thing because, you know what I'm saying, we've been on that paleo. So let's kind of just, you know, let's just start there. See if we can get on something here. Page we got with our 113. What was that, 117? Y'all remember? Oh, I see Atlantis. I got to start here. I mean, look, man. We're talking Brazil. We're talking Atlantis, all right? That's all you need to know. What happened? What I do? Go back. All right, cool. In the highlands of this great Atlantis colony, all right? The new Atlantis of old America. Look, this is the old. How many times y'all want to see this? Old America, man. He didn't say new America. Old America. This is the old world. It was the fire from heaven and the earth below that ruined them. When the earth shook and day turned to night, in these dead cities of the unexplored Mato Grosso of today, there came from great and bottomless crevices in the ground and the paved roads by the side of their splendid temples and palaces, volumes of deadly gases, blinded, asphyxiated. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Asphyxiated, maddened beyond human endurance. So this is like straight plague 101, right? You know what I mean? That pretty much means that's like suffocating, I believe, rendered insane by the appalling suddenness of the cosmic catastrophe. Men and women, white-skinned. Hey, they're gonna, you know, I can't help them from doing that. But maybe they were white-skinned. I don't know. But if we're talking Greece, we're talking original, we're talking, you know what I mean? Unless these hijacks, you know what I'm saying, have this Atlantis thing going on. All right. Either way, it was destroyed. All right. So white skin. Oh, beautiful. Some red here. So now they're trying to. All right. So now they definitely hijacking some shit. All right. Other fair and blonde. So they want to paint this picture of this blonde and white and Nordic. You know what I'm saying? That's their Pleiades, alien, you know, new age type of shit. Dodge all this hijack, because if you're talking the Greek goddess or any of their Greek gods. Don't make me pull it up and get their Zeus again. Don't make me pull it up and get their Greek gods, because they're all melanated. You know, Europa, anything you want to talk about. Fled out of the cities, leaving all behind them. Parts of the cities sank to the ground. So this is the sinking of Atlantis, swallowed up by the terrific earthquake. All right, man. All right. I want to get to 1710. All right. We're talking Brazil. We're talking Atlantis. Hold on right quick. Oh, yeah, this is all right. What was not incinerated was destroyed by the wild beasts and prey, birds of prey, who, for many years, thousands of years to come, would inhabit alone these cities of old High Brazil. They're calling it High Brazil. Swept by the bosom of destruction, the Andes had risen in the night and day, and far out of the sea, on the edge of another lost continent, flames 3 miles wide and high shot from the crater of what is now Hawaii. Flames 3 miles high and wide shot from the crater of what is now Hawaii. It was a scene that would cause the fire of the Lord and spirit of poetic prophecy to come on the old Hebrew poet Isaiah. Once again, it's about you. Once again, it's all about you, so-called Negro. Contemplating the mournful remains of what had once been a wonderful civilization. With fire in his eyes, he would have disclaimed. All right, man, it's getting good yet? Man, love to my sister, Cara J, man. And all the hosts of heaven shall be dissolved, and the heavens rolled up together as a scroll, and it shall not be quenched, nor day and night, nor night nor day. The smoke shall go up forever and ever. Yes, we have on the earth no shore of eternal abiding place. If this sounds to you, reader, like a new flesh-creeping apocalyptic vision of a fanatical world ender, be pleased to know that this appalling catastrophe of around the year 11,000 BC, so they say, it had a faint reflection in something that befell modern Brazil. Man, we're just talking America. And I ask you if this is the old world or the new world. We're talking 11,000 BC. We're talking about Brazil. On August 30th, 1931 AD, when 3 giant aerolites roared down from the sky and depopulated hundreds of miles of forest, a lonely padre, Fidelio, reported the amazing event to the Vatican in Rome. They fell in the forest bordering Rio Caraca. The heat engendered was terrific. Their size was immense. Great flames sprang up from the mass of compressed air. Incandescent, glowing white hot, that is born in front of aerolites. The forest was set afire. All right, man, so this is a whole drop going on now. Nor this has been the only cosmic visitation from outer space in South America in modern days. All right, cosmic visitations. All right, man. Where's that one? Where's that alphabet? World's oldest alphabet. Man, I'm trying to go super fast, but it's hard, man, because I see all kind of stuff. So we have Atlantean Brazil. Atlantean Brazil. Here's that indigenous symbol again. Does this have anything to do with Christ in Atlantean Brazil? Old India, Asoka, Phoenician, the tau, the cross sticks. Remember the letter tau, the Hebrew letter tau, they're calling Phoenician. Atlantean Brazil, you see their alphabet. In Atlantis, Brazil, Atlantis. Is this the old world or the new? If Atlantis is right here in Brazil. You're in the old world, my people. All the biblical, all the, you know what I'm saying, Joshua, all that happened right here, right here. We're talking South America, we're talking Mexico. We're talking Atlantean Brazil. All right, man, so you can dig on this, man. You know, I know I was going to get something else on it, but we got a lot more to cover. Yeah, you got that left popping up. what's that? The man, how you work this thing? All right, cool. Atlantean, Brazil, the Nineveh, they call it Nineveh, Phoenician, which is basically Hebrew. You got the Moabite, which is basically Hebrew. You know what I mean? All same thing. Letter Aleph, man. Even more remarkable similarities and identities in respect to these ancient Atlantean Brazil signs have been found in the islands of the Sun and Moon, Titicaca, and Coiti, and Lago de Titicaca of Peru. It was, and it's very late, the last known living colony of, here we go again, bearded white men and women. So white skin, you know what I'm saying, blonde hair, all right, man. So according to them, you know, melanin never existed. And somehow that came from a recessive gene. Somehow melanin just popped up. All right, man. So yeah, they're going to give you some drive, a lot of drive, but then they're always going to write themselves in just so that they can sell these books, or else it wouldn't be selling. But we got the Brazil, we got the Aymara Indians in modern Bolivia. It is exceedingly probable that the elements of culture and syllabary or alphabet or hieroglyphs of the old white race of Atlantean Brazil survived for ages afterwards among the primitive races of latter Brazil. Alright, by the side of South America, one suspects civilizations and cultures of so-called old world of Asia and Europe may be more parvenus or inheritors, nor one must repeat is the white race of old Atlantis. So how many times they got to put white, that's how much. If they have to do it that often, you have to suggest that, you know what I'm saying, it's hijack 101. Because you wouldn't have to put white in every paragraph. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, man, I got another document like this on Mu that kind of, you know, drops a lot on Mu, but then again, keeps putting, oh yeah, the people of Mu were all white. You know what I'm saying? So I know it gets annoying, man, but it's the real thing. All right, it's the real thing to dodge these hijacks. Now we're going to keep surfing the wave with Cara J. She also dropped this Secret Cities of Old South America. The sister already knows we got to get the babies out. She already took, man, get the babies out of this, man. That's what we doing, man. The island of Mandanino. Now, you heard of this island before. All women, Amazon. We heard of the Khalifa, Sheba connection. You know, let's see what they got to say on this, man. So the Caras of the Antilles, had legends too, of a far-off time when the sea was not in those regions, but all was dry land. It is Peter Martyr, or Peter Martyr of Angera, or Angleria, who ran a school for nobles at the court of Queen Isabella of Spain, who at the court heard and wrote into the De Nova Orbo contemporary stories of the discoveries made by Columbus in the Caribbean. So on the first voyage, some of the natives were sent prisoner to Old Spain. The natives that they found here were sent to that world, all right? And they and others later set free affirmed that the island of Mandanino, or Martinique, was inhabited only by women. So here is, you know, their documentation that this island of only women existed. Now, if that existed, then definitely King David is over here. Definitely Sheba is over here. All this stuff is going on. When you connect the Amazon to the Califia, to the Sheba, to the Sericali, Mandanino, Martinique, was inhabited only by women. The Spaniards at the time of the first voyage heard about these women and have unfairly been accused by later historians and critics of undue credulity and the lending of too ready an ear to native Indian yarn. So they're saying, yeah, man, you just be, you know what I'm saying, you just believe in that baffle and jaffle, man. But is it a baffle and jaffle, man? Is it a myth? You know what I'm saying? Is their credibility intact? Is there an island of all women that they found there? Now, this is what Peter Martyr said. It seems that the cannibals went at a certain time of the year to visit these women. Cannibals. All right. We don't know if they're cannibals or not, but they're being described as cannibals. All right. Exactly as the Thracians passed to the island of Lesbos, where dwelt the Amazonians or Amazons. All right. That's where you're getting the Lesbos from. When the children of this union are weaned, they send the boys to their fathers. So even though this is where they're getting this Lesbos from, they're not Lesbos because clearly they're having intercourse with these men. All right, so the children of the union are weaned. They send the boys to the fathers, but keep the girls. So you might have heard this before. So the boys are sent to the father. The girls stay there on this island, separated. Is it just a separate situation? It is claimed that the women know of great subterraneans, caverns, vaults, or tunnels where they hide themselves so that if the men try to visit them before the agreed time and attempt to use force to enter these tunnels or adopt trickery and ruses, the women defend themselves with arrows and they know how to shoot them with skill. That's at least what they say. I repeat to you, this is from the first decade de Orbo Novo. Columbus himself said on the 4th of March 1493 that these women, this is what Columbus said, these women, warriors of old Martinique, covered themselves with brazen plates and used bows and arrows of cane. These Amazons have many of these plates. All right. Alfonso Ulloa, a companion of Columbus on the famous voyages, wrote in Historia del S.D. Fernando de Colombo that the admiral believed that the Indians Caribs told him of the Amazons of Matrimonio, or Martinique, because he saw the spirit of strength these women displayed. Ulloa also makes a significant comment, not that he appreciated the significance of the female cults of lunar worship practiced by these West Indian Amazons. Alright, so let's just drop this map on us, man, that we can kind of dig on a little bit if I can figure it out. Alright, so it's like Columbus. This is the map illustrating the voyage of Christopher Columbus. And I dropped this, man. You see me going, man. Lightning, because I'm trying to get as much in as possible. But I'm just leading you to the water. I'm dropping all these links. A lot of it I haven't even been able to dig all the way through yet, at all. Or some of it, barely. But I know you're going to dig it, man. And I don't like to hold stuff, man. We got so many great researchers out here that I know somebody can dig on some of all of this, you know what I'm saying? While we just keep it going, man. We're going so quickly, but it's all conclusive. It's all beautiful, man. It's all connecting. So, Mandanino, right here. You have the Mandanino. What did it say? The Isle of Mandanino. Okay. Mandanino, Martinique, was inhabited only by women. All right. So this Mandanino is right by, let's see, you got Cuba, Jamaica, whatever this is supposed to be. Maybe the Hispaniola situation. You know what I mean? You got what they're calling Uye, Guar, Syria, something like that. It seems to be right on top of South America, right there in that spot. So they're saying right there in that Caribbean island spot, it was or is an island of all women. All right. So, you got this map, man. I appreciate you, Sister Cara J, man, dropping this drop. I think we got one more that I want to share. Oh, yeah, this is from the sister as well. I'll leave all these links. The sister gave us some great links. List of indigenous names of Eastern Caribbean islands. The list of indigenous names of Eastern Caribbean islands is a compilation of indigenous names that were given by Amerindian people to those islands before the Europeans started naming them. The islands of the Caribbean were settled for over 4,000 years before the European arrival in 1492. The Eastern Caribbean islands were dominated by two main cultural groups, the Arawaks and Kalingo or Caribs. So they're calling the Kalinago, Also Caribs, we got to dig on that. Arawaks. Individual villages of other distinct cultural groups were also present on the more southerly larger islands. The large island of Trinidad, in particular, was shared by both Kalinago and Arawak groups. So that's where they're getting the Caribs from. How are the Caribs connected to the Canaanite Israelite situation? Canaanite Israelite situation. Carib Arawak situation. Archaeological evidence suggests that the Arawaks arrived first, settling the islands as they traveled north from the Orinoco River in Venezuela. What did Columbus say about the Orinoco? That it flowed out of the terrestrial paradise, Eden. So these Arawaks were traveling north from this Orinoco River, which Columbus said in his own manuscript that this Orinoco River flowed or connected to the terrestrial paradise. We're talking about Roraima in South America. We're talking Venezuela. The Kalinago people, who proved to be more dominant in warfare, have begun a campaign of conquering and displacement of the Arawaks at the point of European arrival. So, of course, if they're already displacing these Arawaks, who would sign the treaties with the Europeans to get rid of these Arawaks, or possibly Israelites? Also, starting at the southern end of the archipelago, they had worked their way north, reaching as far as the island of St. Kitts by the 16th century. We gotta get on that St. Kitts. I didn't know the St. Kitts borderline had Arawak names, man. All right. So we got these Arawak origin, land of salt. Owa is also Hawa. Remember, we got that. Owa. Man, okay. Hey. Oali. Wadala. Wa. Remember the Wa. Dali. All right, man. You dig on it, man. And here's the Kalango. So you got the Kalango situation, man. So I'm gonna leave all this for you. You got the Taino situation, man. Very good drop here, my sister. Very good drop, man. I'm trying to, connect as much as I can, as fast as I can. All right, then the sister dropped this Mormon drop, so we'll get this. Oh yeah, right quick, man. Love to the sister Ty Battle, who dropped this. We just got some of this before, man. You know what I'm saying? Hope you enjoyed that series. But again, man, I just wanted to, this is out the, what's that drop? A sermon on the capture of Lord Cornwallis, by an African American, 1782. Remember he said right here, he said, "It is not surprisingly wonderful that an infatuated ministry should imagine that the Americans, that these copper-colored races, these Negroes, these tribes will give up their natural rights to be destroyed by their commissioned heroes. No, however exalted their ambition may be, would not be able to prevent or restrain the freedom of the free-born sons of America. This southern hero, this Mars of war," what do we say? They came with their god of war, their Jupiter, their Mars. Moors from Mars. This conscientia of a defeated general, this apostolate of America, he being one of the conquerors of the capital of Carolina, marched with rapidity into the interior parts of that country. Let me skip ahead, man. No incense or oblation that can be offered on the altar of repentance will serve to extinguish that guilt or appease the wrath of that Hawa, who said, whosoever sheddeth man's blood, by man's shall his blood be shed, for in the image of Hawa did Hawa make man. So it was always connected to you. I remember what they said about the month of Abib. We had the month of Abib. Methinks if he had any conscience, he must have had some remorse. But whether he was hardened or temperate, he was obliged to surrender to the victorious arms of America and France. Remember France, man. Back to this lost tribes of Andros and chasing these Russes and Rosses and Russes of Russia. We're getting back to the Picts. And remember France. I kept thinking France. How does that connect with us? How does that connect with the Rus, with the Mazaka, with the Mashika? Now we're talking about the Knights Templars, which were originally us protecting all these, you know what I'm saying, Ark of the Covenant, Solomon's, you know what I'm saying? All this stuff was being, the temple was being, all this was being protected and connected. These were the secrets that are being passed. But these Israelite kings, you know what I'm saying? Then they had the treacherous Templars, which Prester John warned about, the treacherous Templar. So he had a bunch of knights. You even had Jacob the Knight. In Ezekiel's chariot, imagine identity, micrography decorated of the Ashkenazi Bible, and in which they have this decoration identifies the human figure as Jacob, which may illustrate the verse Avar Yaakov, meaning mighty one of Jacob, or Jacob the Knight. So on their Ashkenaz Bible, they have Jacob described as a knight. So what does these knights got to do with it? This is from the writers of TribWatch.com. It shows that the Rus were part and parcel with the Franks. The Rus are joined with the Franks in forming the Knights Templars. So what does that got to do with France? What do the Franks got to do with France? Change that C to a K. Surrender to the vicious arms of America and France. So there was some connection, maybe some knight connection in the month, which ought to be remembered by Americans and observed by them as the month of Abib. So this Hebrew harvest month should be remembered by these Hebrew Americans, these Israelites here. Or else why would this author say in 1782 that these Americans, that this month, which ought to be remembered by Americans and observed by them as the month of Abib, was by the children of Israel after their deliverance from the land of Egypt? In that month, which ought to be ever remembered by Americans and observed by them as the month of Abib. Why they're relating this to you, so-called Negro found here, copper color race found here, was by the children of Israel after their deliverance from the land of Egypt. How is the mighty fallen? So love to Ty Battle for dropping that, man. And we're going to get back in the Mandros. Man, let's get some of this, man, out of this Mormon drop. Again, love to the Sister Cara J. Let's go.
The Hopewell Mound Builders are considered by some to be the greatest empire builders of ancient North America. Some even believe them to be the Nephites of the Book of Mormon. While they're not altogether incorrect in that assessment, there's more to the story than meets the eye, for a number of cultures and people contributed to the widespread Hopewell tradition. Thus it's important to identify them and their ties to the people of the Book of Mormon, whose own territory and expansion into outlying regions should obviously come first. Along with any number of other variables, three things in particular help archaeologists identify the ancient inhabitants of a
belly flop.
Nephites arrived in the lands further south, having likely sailed up the Susquehanna River and from there into southwestern New York and ultimately north into Zarahemla among the Mulekites. While the Mulekites had a mix of skull types, the Nephites were a purely long-headed or dolichocephalic race, typical of most of the Semitic tribes. William A. Ritchie documented the arrival of a new long-headed people into New York around this time, who he ties in with the resident Point Peninsula populations, for they occupied the same region. And they, the Nephites, discovered a people who were called the people of Zarahemla. Now there was great rejoicing among the people of Zarahemla, and also Zarahemla did rejoicing.
Don't y'all see the thing that we're trying to go into their vaults to get our dropout, and it's always covered with their images and you know what I'm saying, them writing in some some portion of them that has to be connected to it, or else it won't sell amongst their population. Hey, so remember how the other things, the Nephites were all these pale people with red hair and all this stuff like that. Niggas didn't exist here, huh, nigga, All right, man. So watch the hijack, man. Let's go.
Exceedingly, because the Lord has sent the people of Mosiah with the plates of brass which contain the record of the Jews.
The people of Mosiah, or Moshe, with the plates of brass. They're talking to you, so-called Negro.
Now why would Zarahemla and his people rejoice so exceedingly over their bringing with them the record of the Jews, if they themselves were not of that royal lineage themselves? Book of Mormon territory took in chiefly western New York, with the modern city of Buffalo within the overall lands known as the land of Zarahemla during Book of Mormon times, a region not more than 100 miles from the hill Cumorah itself, where both the Nephites and Jaredites fell in battle in terrible civil wars. By careful attention, where both the Nephites...
Hill Cumorah. This is New York. You wonder where Sodom and Gomorrah are. Remember, Horace Butler says the C's and the G's are interchangeable. It's the one-letter rule. On top of this is Sodus Bay. Sodus. I don't know. Anything to do with Sodom? We're just trying to ask the questions.
Nephites and Jaredites fell in battle in terrible civil wars. By careful attention to all the geographical descriptions provided in the scriptures, every land, city, and region noted in the Book of Mormon can be laid out in the near Cumorah setting perfectly, a land the lineal descendants of Lehi would continue to inhabit throughout their long sojourn in the land, regardless of those who chose to branch out into various outlying regions. From their center in western New York, the Nephite branch of the Point Peninsula people also carried their culture eastward to the Atlantic in the 1st century BC, a timeline consistent with the departure of a large group of Nephites from Zarahemla into the land northward around 49 BC. Unfortunately, those who moved north mixed with the Algonquins so long that they too became a warlike people and were ultimately numbered among the Lamanites, those the archaeological record refers to as the Eastern Algonquins. It was chiefly the Eastern Algonquins that the Gentiles first encountered when they made their way west across the Atlantic to the New World. Interestingly, the legendary Princess Pocahontas was an Eastern Algonquin and was thus of Nephite stock. Two names stand out among the Eastern Algonquins, the Micmac and the Ojibwe, or Anishinaabe as they are also called, both of which kept detailed records of their life and times on birchbark scrolls. Not surprisingly, the characters of the writing of the Micmac show them to be almost identical to the characters copied from the golden plates whose translation became the Book of Mormon. Ojibwe is derived from a word meaning those who keep records of a vision, referring to their form of pictorial writing. Thus we can suppose the Ojibwe were of Nephite stock, for the Book of Mormon clearly reveals that it was chiefly the Nephites of the lands further north who kept their records. After spending many years among the Ojibwe, William Warren said, "The more I have become acquainted with the Ojibwe, the more strongly has it been impressed on my mind that they bear a close affinity or analogy to the chosen people of God, and they are either descendants of the lost tribes of Israel, or they have had in some former era a close contact and intercourse with Hebrews, imbibing from them their beliefs and customs and the traditions of their patriarchs."
Is this play? So, we get all this, we surf through their hijack images and we surf through them, inserting themselves in every damn document. Just again for them to say, oh, well, yeah, the people that we found here in America, no matter what tribe they want to call it, no matter what tribe they keep calling it, strongly has it been impressed on my mind that they bear a close affinity or analogy to the chosen people of the Creator, and they are either descendants of the lost tribes of Israel, or they have had in some former era close contact and intercourse with the Hebrew. In other words, We know these people are Hebrews here. Again, why did Columbus bring a Hebrew interpreter to find you? And no matter what they say, no matter what these people keep doing about what they're talking about, Nephites and pale white people, red hair, but then they keep saying, oh, well, they, bred with the Algonquins. American, this is their dictionary, not mine. A native of America originally applied to the Aboriginals or copper-colored races. That doesn't sound like white people with red hair was found here. And if this is what was found here, the copper-colored race, if this is what was found here, you know what a copper penny looks like. If this color was what was found here, damn it, you're going to make me do copper penny. Copper penny. Because you need to see how dark, beautiful, and rich this is, man. Because all the bullshit images they give you, we might as well pull up our own. We might as well focus on our own penny. We all know what a penny looks like. Alright. Genuine, right? Fake. So the genuine one is dark. The fake is light, right? Genuine dark, fake light. Altered. Chaos. Abstract. Concrete. Genuine. You see how dark copper is? And you see all the tint and the shade and the ruddy. All the blend of copper that you are as Negro people. Again. American. The copper color races we found here. Oh no, white Nephites. Alright, man. Love to the sister Renaya Bay. She dropped this on me. You know what I'm saying? This is one of those, private links, man, that the sister put together, you know what I'm saying, to share with some of the fan bam, and hopefully with the sister's permission we can share, you know what I'm saying, some of this drop. You know what I'm saying? I'll just leave it to here, man, so y'all can just kind of get a piece of it, because this is for y'all. This kind of goes off the Deuteronomy 34 drop we did a while back, go months back in. She just kind of, you know what I'm saying, revisited it, definitely dug on some very key elements. So let's try to do a dismount here, man, and love to the sister Renaya Bay for the deep recon.
Another video for you guys. As always, this is a private video for my Indigenous family members only, and in order to watch the video, you must have the link. Now, family, I know what the title says, and I know what the scripture says, but let's reserve our judgment for the end of the video, okay? Now, in this video, I'm going to be pinpointing places on this map. You'll see different little push pins pop up on this map, but I'm going to be reading from Deuteronomy 34. If you want, you can go to the Bible Hub and pull up Deuteronomy 34, and this is the New American.
All right, man, go get the drop that we did the whole Google Earth thing. Again, love to the sister, you know what I'm saying, and hopefully with the sister's permission we can revisit this, but either way, go to that old drop, Deuteronomy 34. We got to revisit that because everything is here, and you say, oh, well, the Mormons just made some shit up, or did they reclaim something? As they're telling you right now, they found Israelites here, so clearly they knew they were in Israel. And how did they label it, and how does it connect to Deuteronomy 34? Let's go.
Standard Bible, the one that I have. I'm going to be reading from that. I'm not going to leave this on screen, so if you want to bring it up, go ahead and follow along. I'm going to be reading verse 1 and 2, and then I'm going to skip down to 6, okay? So we're going to 1 and 2, the death of Moses. Now Moses went up from the plains of Moab. Now you can see my first push pin is here, Moab, okay, to Mount Nebo, to the top of Pisgah. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, which is opposite Jericho. Where's Jericho? It's Pisgah, Jericho. And the Lord showed him all the land Gilead, as far as Dan. Now, Dan is short for Daniel. And all Naphtali and the land of Ephraim. There's Ephraim. I couldn't find Naphtali, but there's Ephraim. and the land of Menasseh, and I couldn't find Menasseh, okay? And all...
And I think we found those if you go back to the other drive. Maybe I'm mistaken, but I know for sure I think we found Naphtali. Let's go.
The land of Judah as far as the western sea. Now let's back up and let's look at Judah. It says that all the land of Judah as far as the western sea. Okay, now Judah. Now we know that in Moses' time there was no J. The J did not exist in the land in the time of Moses. That would have been actually a Y. Okay, so that's Judah. And what does that sound like? Utah. Sounds like Utah to me.
Bang.
So, if you didn't guess now, yes, family, I'm in Utah. This is Utah. You can see the state, and there's the outline of the state of Utah. Okay, but let me finish. Okay, it says, all the land of Judah as far as the western sea. Let me explain that. Now, here is an older map. This map right here is actually showing the evolution of this area here, which is Nevada, Utah, Arizona, and New Mexico. Okay, but let me just stop it from moving and just pull up the map that I want, the time that I want. Now, you can see here, and this is in 1850. Utah actually butted up against California, okay? And it even went into Colorado. There was no Nevada in Arizona, okay? Now, let me bring up another older map that I've shown you guys before. This map is a rare map from Free USA Maps. I've shown you guys this map before. Now, this was a long time ago when California was just an island, okay? So Utah would have been here. And what does the scripture say? As far as the western sea. So he showed them all the land. He showed them all the land of Judah as far as the western sea. So this would have been the water here, because California was not attached yet, and Utah would have been right there. Okay. So let's go back to the map, because I'm going to finish reading the rest of the scripture. Okay. So I'm going to jump down to verse 6. It says, and he buried him in the valley in the land of Moab. There's Moab right there. Opposite Beth Peor. Now, I didn't find Beth Peor. I tried, and I didn't find it. But here's something that I did find, okay? I found Moses and Zeus monument. Now, let me go ahead and zoom in on that so you can see. I thought that was very interesting that in Utah they would have a monument to Moses and Zeus. Okay. Now you can see here in the Canyonlands National Park, there's a monument to Moses and Zeus here in Utah. Very interesting, huh, family? So,
yeah, I can kind of see his beard, and I did a little snapshot over here for y'all, so I'll leave this. Oh, that's not it. Let's try. Oh, man. There we go. Yeah, you gotta see the head and the beard like this, and I guess, I don't know if that's Zeus down here. Now, the interesting thing is it Zeus? Obviously there is Zeus, is there Jesus? So they keep putting Jesus in places, and Jesus is Zeus. But their Jesus is also Joshua. And could this also be Moses and Joshua that they're hijacking to their is Zeus, their Jesus, their other Joshua? But this is the OG. Is this Moses? You know what I'm saying? Look like, he's talking, to his steward, man. He's talking to Joshua. To me, this is Moses and Joshua, no matter what they say. All right, man. Let's get the rest of it. Love to my sister.
Let me show you what else I found.
Come on.
I'm going to zoom back out so you can see the area again, okay? Because I know that the Bible talks about Zion, so I did find this here. I found the Zion National Park right there, and I found the Jordan River right here. Excuse me. The Jordan River. Very, very interesting. Now, some people think that Moses was buried here in the Grand Canyon. Now, I did send you emails a while ago.
Well, the Grand Canyon, the Grand Canyon is technically still Judah, still Utah.
About the Grand Canyon and how in 1909, this gentleman by the name of, and this is actually from Google, okay? This gentleman by the name of G.E. Kincaid came across a cave, and in this cave, which they sealed off now, he found a bunch of Egyptian artifacts. Okay, that's in the Grand Canyon, you know, next to Utah. And I also showed you guys this map of the Grand Canyon, which shows in here, it shows all the different temples that are located in the Grand Canyon. And there's actually a temple of Ra, and they actually, I read somewhere that they actually asked the Native Americans, and Native Americans explained to them that that was a temple of Ra, because Native Americans actually, I think 5 tribes lived in the Grand Canyon, and up until 1935 was when some Indians lived in there, and they removed them from the Grand Canyon. Okay, so I mean, I don't want to. Well, we'll go ahead and skip that for now. But anyway, so I think that is very interesting, and also there's a book called The Treasures of Utah. So you should probably look at that if you can, or if you're close to a library or something like that. That's interesting. But there's also a video here on YouTube that you can watch, and it's called Utah History.
And we dropped this, man. Love to the family that gave us this. So, you know, the sister been surfing the wave, you know what I'm saying? She's pretty much leading you to the water.
A railroad tour through Utah. And you guys, this is a very, very good video that you should watch. It's 29 minutes long, 40 minutes long. But in this video, he talked about things about the Arabian Nights, the Euphrates River being in Utah, and the Jordan River, and it shows elephants. Now, it shows some marching elephants. You know how marching elephants go, tele-trunk, and it shows that, and you could tell it's elephants etched in stone, and it's really old, but you can see that it's elephants, and I thought that was so interesting. And another thing, though, I thought was interesting, that in this video, they mentioned that sheep raising is a major Utah industry. Where was Moses? He was a shepherd, okay? So I found that very interesting, too. And another thing is, in this video, if you go to this video, and you go to, I think it's 2014, and you'll see this building right here that they show in this video at 2014. And why is this interesting? Well, it's because in this, it's called, it talks about that, it's called the Salt Air Pavilion in the video, but the name has now changed. The name is called, it's now called the Great Salt Air. Yes, it's now called the Great Salt Air. And if you go okay, so it's called the Great Salt Air. And if you go to, here it is right here. It's right now on the water, just like it shows in the movie. It's called the Great Salt Air. Okay, and why is that significant? Well, because if you know anything about what Christopher Columbus really was searching for, then you'll know why that's of importance. Because in the video, he mentions that it's of Moorish architecture. And what does that mean? Moorish architecture. That tells me that the Moors were in this area. Who are the Moors? We are the Moors. Okay, that's our ancestry right there. And so that's like I said, that's very interesting. And what I was going to say before, if you know anything about what Christopher Columbus was really searching for, then you understand why that's so important. So,
oh man, who got the drop?
Let's go to, I'm going to go to an article by, let me see, this is Martin K.M. Briggs, and actually there's like a bunch of, there's a book with a bunch of letters and stuff that Christopher Columbus wrote, and it's put together in this book called the Book of Prophecies. I think I have that book too, but in this book it tells, he tells about, you know, his travels, and K.M. Martin wrote about, one of the things that Christopher Columbus was looking for was he was trying to take back the Holy Land from the Muslims. The Muslims or the Moors. Actually, it would have been Muslims, M-O-S-L-E-M-S, okay? And then in K.M. Bridges' summary, he says that Christopher Columbus didn't know he would open the gates to a